All right, Nancy, go ahead.
Good afternoon. This is a public meeting of the Indiana Arts Commission, Region 3 Arts Project Support Grant Panel Number 2. I am Nancy Stewart and delighted to be here serving as the facilitator for the panel today. I am here as a former member of the Indiana Arts Commission and also served as its chair for 2 years and am from Fort Wayne. Today is Thursday, April 22nd, 2021, and we are meeting online and streaming live for applicants and the public to observe. There is no contact between the panel and the audience about the disposition of applicants before, during, or after the panel meeting. This meeting will be recorded and made available upon request. At this time, I will individually invite each of the panelists and staff to introduce themselves, stating their name, occupation, and where they're from in the state. We will begin with the panelists. Connie?
Hello, everyone. My name is Connie Haas-Zuber. I am the Executive Director of Arch Inc., which is the historic preservation organization in Fort Wayne, Indiana.
Kyle.
Hello, my name is Kyle Pierce. I live in Anderson, Indiana, working monthly at the Ball State University Foundation.
Karen.
I'm Karen Gibbons-Brown, the Artistic Director of Fort Wayne Ballet. And although I work in Fort Wayne, I now live in Auburn.
Anna.
My name is Anna Ross. I'm Executive Director of Audiences Unlimited, and I live in Fort Wayne and at the office right now.
Thank you. Leslie.
Hi, I'm Leslie Horman, born, raised, and reside in Fort Wayne, Indiana, and I am the retired Executive Director of the Fort Wayne Youth Theater.
And we certainly welcome each of you as panelists. Now we'll move on to the Indiana Arts Commission staff. Deanna.
Hello, I'm Deanna Polsma, the Grants Research and IT Manager at the IAC.
Ben.
Hello, I'm Benjamin Thomas, the IAC intern and technical support for this panel.
Thank you for being here. And last but not least, we have our Region 3 Regional Arts Partner with us today, Heather.
Hi there, I'm Heather Clausen. Like Nancy said, I'm the Regional Art Partner representative for Region 3, and I'm the Director of Grants and Programs at Arts United of Greater Fort Wayne.
Thank you, Heather, and for all that you've done to make this panel possible. I will announce the application we will review and ask the first reader to begin the discussion. The first reader will provide their assessment of the application based upon the evaluation criteria and their perspective. Panelists, please note that the applications do not need to be recapped since everyone has read it. Just provide your comments. After the first reader is finished, I will ask the second reader to present any new, additional, or opposing comments. We are not looking for consensus, just a full evaluation from the different perspectives panelists bring to the table. After the second reader has finished, I will open the discussion for final comments. Remember, in the interest of time, we are only looking for new, additional, or opposing points of view. And we do have one conflict of interest, and that is not until the last application. Finally, once the application has been reviewed by the full panel, we will ask the panel to update their scores on the online system and give us a thumbs up. It is common for scores to change as a result of this broader discussion, and remember that these scores save automatically. Are there any questions? Okay, then we're off, ready to go. We will begin with our first application the Auburn Automotive Heritage. And our first reader is Connie.
Who was slow unmuting herself. But I have 3 things I'd like to comment for this application. First of all, in the application, I see a good use of surveys to gather community input, and also good use of the public library as a community partner to engage a wider audience. Community partners are very valuable when you're trying to create the ongoing conversation that you want for your projects. My second comment is about the marketing materials that we saw with this application. I think these marketing materials are clear and effective, but I will comment that they could be even more engaging and inviting by showing people who look like your intended audience enjoying the programming. That just makes for better marketing materials. My final comment is in response to the fact that this application says that it benefits no artists. And I don't think that, I have a suggestion about that for the program organizers to consider. I think that perhaps there is a way you could find Hoosier professional animators or educators who teach animation to speak about the development and history of animation for that Disney film that you have on the schedule to add some artist benefit to your project. And that would be a valid and interesting thing to do that would add value to your program. Those are my comments.
Thank you, Connie. And as our second reader, Karen.
I only have a few things to add. I noticed that there was a strong volunteer group, which I think shows tremendous support. And I appreciate the way they are sneaking history in without the community always realizing it.
Now, as a panel, does anybody else have any other comment they'd like to add? Anna?
Yes, thank you. I agree with them. I also, though I would like to see more of a focus on the artistic elements within the grant application itself, and some type of maybe packet for youth with hands-on activities to be distributed for the cars. And for me, while the involvement of the volunteers is really important, it was unclear how they're going to interact with the participants if they're in their cars, and then observe their involvement coming to the museum at later times. So perhaps a post-event survey with 3 or 4 questions that could be dropped in a box on the way out driving out of the movie event, and have a drawing for a free museum admission, something like that. And finally, perhaps a community task force to look at new programming would be helpful.
Thank you. Are there any other additional comments?
I was just curious about where the flyers go, where are they distributed? Also, the education director has a lot of expertise, should be commended, but I wasn't sure how it translates to this specific project. In addition to the tie-in with children, which would be great. Another artistic connection that I would suggest, visual artists doing different renditions of these gorgeous, gorgeous cars, or a film expert, maybe the Cinema Center, to kind of do a pre-talk and connect the actual way the car connects with those films chosen, because that wasn't really evident at first. And I'm sure that someone's going to explain it at the beginning, but yeah.
Thank you. Any other comments? Okay, let's please finalize those scores and give me a thumbs up. 1, 2, 3. Karen, are you ready? Thank you. All right. We will move on to our second application, Believe in a Dream. Kyle is our first reader.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Perfect, thank you. I only had 3 things. First off, thank you for putting the application. In terms of the review process of kind of receiving feedback, it looked like it had how they've received feedback to this point, but didn't discuss much about, okay, well, once this event's occurred, how are we taking in as much feedback? I would have liked to have seen a little bit more there. Also, in terms of the timeline, I know often when you get into events, you know, you can know, hey, this is what's going on. But it would have been nice to see a little bit more detail. You know, there were these 3 or 4 main pillar. Okay, we're doing like rehearsals and we're doing this and this. In terms of having a little bit more detail, okay, what's the in-between time look like, and kind of that setup and rollout, and making sure that people are aware of the event. But then in terms of one of the really good positives, I like seeing the background, the detailed background about who will be helping put on this event. That's always extremely helpful to see, okay, hey, these are experts, or these people have done this quite a few times before. It is always very valuable to see, but that's all I had.
Thank you, Kyle. Leslie is our second reader. Anything new or different? You're on mute.
I noticed that the budget only included $500 for guest artist fees and only benefited 1 artist. Aren't the teachers considered artists maybe? The payroll administrative service should be broken down, I thought, and maybe partner with a venue which will donate space, because right now they're spending $1,000 on the venue space. Also, I had a question, do you work with area music teachers? And I like how there's no auditions, but do you have you know, worthwhile partnerships with area teachers or musicians to maybe pinpoint some of these students that don't normally volunteer for stuff, but they would benefit from it, but maybe they've fallen through the cracks?
Thank you. Does anybody else have any other additional comments? Anna?
Yes, I would have also, it would have been helpful to have more detail, I think, in the purpose and the goal descriptions, like how many rehearsals a week, how does the guest artist performer bring what does the guest artist performer bring as arts learning and help for the students, or is it just a performance? And then can they accommodate musicians who may be in a wheelchair, since we're unclear exactly where they were rehearsing?
Anybody else? Okay, then let's finalize those scores. Give me a thumbs up, please.
Karen, if you need any, looks like you have assistance, but if you need any help from our team, let us know.
Okay, thank you. I think I've got it under control for a minute anyway.
We have a thumbs up from everybody. All right. City of Auburn. Karen is our first. You ready, Karen?
I think so. This mural project is a part of a long-standing initiative to revitalize the community in the downtown. I think the process for artistic quality is strong. It does benefit an Indiana artist. And I want to point out that it builds a sense of community, which is an intangible that's really hard to evaluate, but that's a significant thing when you have pride in your community. They pointed out that they have a larger than normal disabled community, but they seem to have found ways to address that demographic with their accessibility, and the timeline seems to be in place.
Thank you, Karen. Connie, different comments.
I have 2. And one is that even though I know it's hard to do, I would appreciate your best estimate of how many members of the public will be viewing the project and will help you celebrate its completion, because they do count as participants and they're a very important part of the project's community involvement and impact. So I know it's just a best estimate, but I would appreciate seeing that on the application. Second, and I'm back to my same point about the marketing and website. And a comment about the power of including faces of people in marketing and website images. People like to see people like themselves in programs and places being marketed to them. It's engaging and it works. I know Woodburn uses its website, so that's why I included mentioning that here, not only in whatever, you know, flyers and things they'll use about this particular program, but also in what they do on the website about it.
The panel as a whole, does anybody else have anything to add to this discussion? All right, then let's finalize our scores, please. I'm going to try and come up with different ways to say thank you and finalize your score. Is it a thumbs up all around? Terrific. Okay, Creative Women of the World. Our first reader is Anna.
This project was thoughtfully designed to include various arts experiences for artists, musicians, and the public. And the interaction between the primary artists and the mentees is really great. Having Latino artists work on display and available for sale during the project complements the program components very nicely in the artistic way. There's great involvement and attention to the Latino community with many artists involved in the project. And it's great to offer the bilingual marketing materials. It would have been helpful to see the percentage of the local Latino community in Northeast Indiana compared to other demographics to show further show the inclusion element. It was unclear if the facility is accessible and how the exhibition or the activities will be accessible for the craft project, things like that. And the narrative states we will be able to do these programs either in person or virtually. In order to increase inclusiveness and access, you might consider doing both in person and virtual, even if only for select components for the virtual. And perhaps partner with another organization that would also benefit from creating these type of virtual programs for you. As far as project management, the committee size is appropriate for this project in its second year. The members bring specific skills that can benefit the project. It is, though, unclear who determines the Latino artwork exhibit artists, and there could be an opportunity to involve more people in the community in the selection of these artists for the exhibition and sale. And the budget is very reasonable. And if you're already paying musicians for the right to record and stream music, why not include that component regardless if the program is in person or virtual? Those are my comments.
Thank you, Anna. Kyle?
I have nothing to add.
Nothing to add. Thank you. Does anybody else have anything to add?
I do.
Oh, sorry, go ahead. I was just going to suggest, like, to piggyback on Anna's idea of collaboration. There's so many outstanding Latino groups out there. Are you working with Hispanos Unidos, area high schools, the Fort Wayne Hispanic Chamber of Commerce, Latinos Count, and also as far as the committee, it's always good to have non-artists on your committee. People that maybe excel in fundraising, education, legal issues, etc. Yeah.
Thank you. Connie?
That is the direction I was going to. I would have just appreciated more information about how this project idea arose out of an interaction with the community.
Thank you. Anyone else? Okay, then let's finalize those scores, please. One thumb up. 2, 3, 4, 5. All right. Application number 5, East Allen County Schools. Leslie is our first reader.
Alrighty. This is a 4-year program. It's been going on for 4 years. It's the Southwick Elementary School first graders, specifically partnering with Heartland Singers, Heartland Chorale. Specifically, it's the Arts Integrated Residency, and its goal is literacy through the arts. It involves 243 first graders. This is from East Allen County, which is a very underserved area as far as the arts. So the goals are incredible. 85% free lunch, 41% are Burmese, and 45% are English primary learners. So this is a huge, huge task. Their goal is to improve student achievement through neurological development and brain-based learning theories, using an interdisciplinary curriculum to improve achievement, to facilitate lifelong learning and to encourage an overall interest in the arts. This is a very underserved area. I think the goals are very, very, very lofty. I think that it's a wonderful program in that it gives access, and it certainly will excite interest in the arts. My question was, after you excite the interest in the arts, then what's your follow-up with these students? Because every year, it's very, very crucial to build on that. And as far as measuring how the program is going to, they hope that their program is going to improve students' language arts skills. A lot of not really any information on how they would break down lessons. I wanted to see more pinpointed lessons. How are you working? Are you working with sight words? It was very unclear, the breakdown of how they would specifically connect with the classroom teacher. I had a question, how is the music teacher involved? I'm sure she is, but I needed more of a breakdown of the lessons, the introduction, the creating of the original music. How is that all, how is that all linear, and how does that work back and forth? I think that the materials for the support materials, there was a great story from Wayne TV, and that gave me really the best idea of what's going on, because there wasn't really a breakdown of how they achieved this incredible opportunity with first graders. I needed more of a lesson breakdown. The Facebook materials, I found one picture and it wasn't very compelling. You've got this great opportunity to work with these kids, and it was just kind of missing. It was kind of a lost opportunity, I thought. As far as the budgeting, it talks about the Heartland donates $33,000 worth of donated time. I wasn't sure how they came up with that number. Is it donated time? Is it discounted? How much do they normally charge, for an hourly workshop with one of these artists? Wasn't very clear. And then the measuring, how do you measure that their benefit in their language arts skills? Observation, standardized tests, the big standardized test, are you using that? And what is that compared to? Obviously you missed a year because of the COVID, but not sure how that all works in with this incredible goal of we're going to use opera to increase language arts scores and skills.
Thank you very much. And Connie is our second reader.
The only thing I have to add is really more of an observation about how programs like this can achieve the IDEA criteria. The underserved audience that the IDEA criteria want these project organizers to be in conversation with, in relationship with, are the school children. And it's a different group of school children every year. So I see the educators really as standing in as the ongoing presence on the other side of this relationship with the project organizers, standing in for the audience. And I think that is probably okay. But it does raise the issues that Leslie was talking about how do you follow up and how do you really measure the results of it. I'm not criticizing the program or the goals in any way, because this could be one very powerful start to an arts education for a first grader, but it is an issue, and you need to look at it carefully from the IDEA lens, I think, to be able to see how it works.
Also, I did forget one aspect. They talk about, as far as the demographics, you work with an enormous amount of Burmese, and so how are language barriers addressed, and et cetera. Also, as far as the planning at the beginning, it was a lot of administration, a lot of Title I directors, et cetera. When exactly do you bring the teachers in? So there's ownership for their own classroom and their own program.
Are there any comments from the rest of the panel? Okay, then let's finalize those scores. Give me a thumbs up, please. All right, we're ready to move on then to Purdue University, Fort Wayne, and Karen is our first reader here.
Thank you, Nancy. So this visual arts camp is a wonderful concept, and I appreciate the fact that they grow. It doesn't have a great history yet because it's relatively new, but they've altered some of the offerings to include what might be more current in today's world. It's offering an opportunity in creating some self-reliance in that the students are planning for their own gallery showing at the end. And I think that's important for young people to take some ownership and responsibility of their own programs. I was a little unclear, and this is about the idea component along with the project management. I was a little unclear as to how they were really gathering students. By nature of Fort Wayne Community Schools, it is a large, diverse demographic. But if they're only taking in 18 students, how do they select those students and who might they be missing? Which leads me to the budget. There was a lot of scholarshiping money, yet there was a number for the registration of camps. So are we excluding young people because of that particular budget number? And if they're all scholarship, how are they choosing those students that have the scholarships? I know that's a significant part of what they're offering. I was just unclear as to how that all worked within this particular program. The timeline seems reasonable, but I was unclear in regards to the budget and the carry through with the young students. And it's a large demographic of age. An art student in 7th grade has a whole lot of learning to do to get to the same as a student in the 12th grade. So I was not clear on how they were choosing those students, how they were dividing them up in their groups within the camps.
Thank you, Karen. And Anna is our second reader.
Yes, I would have liked to seen a little more detail of the high level instruction in the specific art disciplines and the purpose and goals, and maybe some overarching learning outcomes for the disciplines. There wasn't much information about how many scholarships as well are expected to be just distributed in the narrative, and the marketing brochure, it was unclear how someone would reach out to inquire about a scholarship. My biggest thing was the budget. Basically, let me get down to that part, sorry. It's a little bit confusing to me because they had just a number of, it said how much money was going to be brought in for the applicants' fees under income. And then they had an expense item for scholarships. So it was unclear. It looked like there were 18 attendees and maybe 18 scholarships at 2 levels. And why are the registrations included in the income? Was there a donation to cover those? It was really unclear. And then shouldn't the scholarships be as an in-kind rather than a cash expense? Because there's not really a cash expense involved in that. So a little more description about the scholarships, but maybe considering putting that the scholarship, because it's not actually, you're not paying out money for those scholarships. So that the budget part was a little confusing for me and unclear.
Thank you, Anna. Do any of the other panelists have any comments, something different they'd like to add? Okay, then let's finalize those scores too. Thumbs up all the way around. Terrific. Okay, Manchester Alive, Main Street Chamber Alliance, Anna.
Oh, actually, Nancy, we have to get Kikianga Festival.
Oops. Sorry about that. Kikianga Festival, Decatur Chamber of Commerce, Connie. Checked it off too.
Okay, in this application, I see good work with community partners year-round to define aspects of the program. And I appreciate the openness to program ideas from them. I think this is how the idea two-way conversation thing is supposed to work. It's wise to go outside your established circle and to seek input and ideas. My second point is about marketing materials. I care deeply about them. I think it's becoming obvious. These particular marketing materials thank the sponsors very well, which is important, but they would be more engaging to attendees if they showed real people participating in festival events. Once again, your marketing materials showing people like your intended audience. People like to see people like themselves in marketing materials. It really works. That's the end of my comments. This is a long-term event. It's got, it's kind of a well-oiled machine going on, and those are the things I thought of.
Right. Leslie?
I have to agree with Connie. It's a nice, well-oiled machine. I like how it works to include the river. The connection to the area schools is great. I would have liked to have had a breakdown of what grades you're specifically working with. Do you have, are they working with specifically, they're connecting with the history classes? Are there, education packets maybe that go out to the teachers? Definitely, those were some questions as far as the great opportunity for these kids to work with this. To piggyback on Connie's suggestion about marketing, you're working with all these kids. That's your selling point. Have pictures of kids working with these artists. You had a lot of pictures that were just empty booths, and you have so many people that are touched by this really neat festival. You need to show the crowds for sure. Really good marketing materials as far as newspaper ads, festival guides, radio billboards. But your timeline, the timeline was a little, I don't think it was lacking. It started, you said from 7/21 to 8/21, you finalize the flyer and you distribute. Where do you distribute all these? But so if you're still distributing in August, the festival starts August 7th, and you put the banner up August 3rd through the 6th. Maybe you want to do it a week earlier. It doesn't seem like that's a lot of lead time for advertising. And the one thing I did see lacking was it's a Kikianga festival. We're celebrating the area settlers. But there is a Native American component in this state that kind of seems to be missing. And so I would just say, seek some kind of connection or collaboration there.
Thank you, Leslie. Anybody have any other comments they'd like to make? Anna?
One quick thing, it would have been helpful to list the examples of the local organizations who serve on diverse populations. That's all we got as a description to gauge how their input is going to be significant in the program planning.
And are you ready to finalize those scores? Please. Thumbs up when you're done. Now we will move along to Manchester Alive. So sorry about that. Anna?
Thank you. The lessons that were learned from last year's project, which was the first year of the project, are really deep and significant. The inclusion permeates the entire application, and they have really brought this up a huge bit, just a huge way from last year's project. It is important that they've expanded the project to make it their own, for their own community, and they fulfilled their mission in serving the community while designing this project and the expansion and the improvements. In the project community engagement and idea, this is really, I think, a model for how to include and involve your community in an important arts project. The inclusion of Daniel's Place and Pathfinders for serving people with disabilities is fantastic. And having a nursing home staff member on the community really helps inform that, brings all the components of the community into their committee, which is really good. The project action items that are broken down in their project timeline and how they proceed, they're broken down into 3 categories: lead, organization, and idea. I think that's very forward thinking and it'll really lead to an authentic and successful project. The budget is reasonable. The only thing I saw lacking for me was they didn't have a description of where the preparation of the wall for painting exists in the budget. And those are my comments.
Thank you, Anna. Kyle, something to add to that?
I will very quickly.
I got caught. I did the audio on my computer, not my phone. Can you hear me? Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Sorry about that. I knew that was going to happen. The only thing I would echo is the process to get input. I was really impressed by. That was it.
Does anybody else have any other additional comments? Something new or different?
I guess I didn't get participation numbers at the meet and greet or the petition, participation numbers all overall.
Thank you. All right, then let's finalize our scores for Manchester Alive. Thumbs up, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. All right, Memorial Park Middle School, Leslie is our first reader. You're unmuted. Oh.
This is a program that totally benefits from a long history of programming. 25 years and counting, works with 10 artists, and it's intensive jazz mentorships. They've got a wonderful, Memorial Park has a lot of jazz ensembles. They offer private lessons all the way through big numbers. I think overall it's just a gem. I was really surprised that 100% of Memorial Park are on free lunch. I wasn't sure about that number, didn't know that. I'm glad that they moved from the concert being at PFW to the Coliseum, moving it back to Memorial Park, because that's your audience that you're serving. I think it's great that you're working with English as a second language because you're addressing that barrier. And the coffee bar idea is just a really timely, hip option for performance. I think that it's great that there are no auditions for a lot of these groups and they can come right on in. I guess my question once again is, how do you connect with the students that do have the talent, but they don't normally join, but they would definitely benefit? How do you fit and address these kids that fall through the cracks? Also, it's such a great program. Are you expanding the marketing? I always would love it if, have the middle schoolers perform for the elementary school and an assembly or music classes. I don't know if that's allowed now because, it is a pullout. My biggest question about the whole week of intensive jazz mentorship is that I needed a schedule breakdown. Is it more pullouts? Is it before school? I know they have the music class, but is it just in the music class? They pull the students out on Friday for the performance, but I guess I needed more details about the actual scheduling with the classroom teachers. I think that the evaluation methods were very sensible and concrete, enrollment, audience numbers. And once again, it's such a great program. What's Up did a great story on it, involved a lot of the kids. And, how do you take this to the state? I mean, just let, state level know about, other schools and how they can benefit from this, because they really do benefit from a lot of great artists and just, 25 years of doing it.
Thank you very much, Leslie. And Karen, as our second reader, anything to add?
I think the perfect example of letting your history inform you is moving that final performance where it reaches the demographic that they're serving, as opposed to where they said they had it in the Coliseum prior. I thought that was a very clever thing to do. The other thing is the timeline seemed just a little bit off, so maybe a bit of attention to that. But I think all in all, it's a strong program where the history of that proves that it can be successful.
Thank you, Karen. Does anybody else on the panel have a glowing additional comment? Okay, then let's finalize those scores, please. One, did I get them all? 2, 3, 4. Did I miss yours, Connie? Okay, we'll move on now to the Miami County Economic Development Authority. And Kyle, you're our first reader. Thank you.
Okay. I really like seeing in the run-up for the event, they review what they did wrong last year or the suggestions from last year. It's easier to understand when you describe how you're going to review or take comments when you include the comments you got from the year prior. It's pretty easy to showcase, hey, we've done this before and we listen. And also the fact is the suggestions they got about having a higher stage, including more, decorations and things like that. Like, those are great things to hear that, hey, we've heard about these problems or concerns, we're going to address them. That's always great to see, especially when you get into the second or third year of an event. In terms of the staffing, they go into detail about one individual, but then they mention they have a committee, but don't really explain who those members are or kind of what their responsibilities are. And with this being the second year of an event, I would like to have seen, okay, who are these individuals in terms of not who they are, but what are they doing? If you have an event that's gone on for 20 years or 5 years or 10 years, that information might be a little less crucial. But when you're, hey, this is the second time we're doing this, it would be great to see, okay, hey, here are the different responsibilities. This is how we're making sure that the operation's going on regardless of one individual. If one individual, has to drop out, we have a plan and process in place, because whoever takes on this role is here's the guidelines of, hey, here's what you need to do. Beyond that, I really appreciated the in-depth timeline, especially for a second year event, where a lot of pieces are probably still not completely, ironed out. You'd probably be, 2 or 3 more years before you really get the true, here's the plan, here's, year in, year out. So I thought the level of detail they had for the second year of an event, I was pretty happy with. And then the only other thing was the budget was good. However, there were a couple items that they seemed to be bunched together a little bit too much. For example, one item was tents, heaters, lights, and barricades was one budget line. If it was possible to, kind of break those things out a little bit more, it's easier to see, okay, where's all this coming from? Where all is this going? But overall, thank you so much for putting it in.
Thank you, Kyle. Connie?
I really can just add a suggestion about, I think I'll call it deepening the community conversation that the planning and development of the program is based on. As I read this application, I see the program being developed largely with input from people who are already attending it. And my question kind of, challenges, how are you talking with people who might not yet be attending? They could have important ideas too, and might have access issues that you can address and that will improve your event and widen its value for your community. Your impact measurement relies a lot on anecdotal evidence and observations. And so you need always to be looking for the highest accuracy counts and the best surveys you can possibly get back from people. I see this situation as your idea strategies are in motion, which is good, but the more you can be in conversation with people you haven't reached yet, the richer your outreach will become and the stronger your event and your community service will be.
Thank you, Connie. Anybody else on the panel have anything they'd like to add? Anna. You're on mute, sweet Anna.
I tried to unmute. Sorry, thank you. I would recommend much more information be included on how the project activities support the artistic goals of the application, especially in regards to the visual arts, and who offers and coordinates the crafts, what are the vendors offering for the participants to experience. There isn't a lot of artistic description and content in the arts components that they would have strengthened the application. The sample only had one of the musical artist's background is just, you know, to view. So it would have been helpful to see at least maybe two for me to gauge. As far as the idea and community engagement, it was unclear. They said we serve both of these communities through free entertainment and attractions. It was really unclear what both of these communities was meant. And I think to me, it was mentioned in the community section that there's reindeer and wagon rides and ice skating, and I would have liked to have seen more about the artistic goals. Finally, maybe in-kind expenses or whatever they are for the visual arts and crafts included in the budget, maybe art teachers' involvement in helping to plan the arts activities. What does that look like? Who are they? Will they involve them? And then accessibility. How are they removing barriers or making accessible? Are there handicap accessible restrooms, parking, things like that would have been helpful as well.
Gracias, Anna.
I just wanted to add that maybe placing the marketing materials earlier. The timeline indicated November 22nd. That's less than a week from the event. So rule of thumb is normally what, 2 to 3 weeks before the event. So maybe more lead time. And it is a lot of work for the market master. She doesn't seem to be getting paid. She's doing a lot of the work, and I don't, you always worry about burnout.
Anybody, any additional comments? Then let's mark those scores, please. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Terrific. We'll move on to Parkview Huntington Family YMCA, and Anna is our first reader here.
Thank you, Nancy. The application is great that there's so many artist instructors with specific specialties involved in the program, and great use of feedback from past programs to inform their decisions about the current programming. A request for the future is the photo link that they supplied was to a Google Drive with like a gazillion photos. So perhaps put a PDF together of some sample photos so that we could really just pull out some representatives from that group. There's great inclusion of community partners and people with varying ages and abilities, and the adaptation of regular classes to include those with disabilities or other challenges is very good. Financial aid assistance is significant to help those who otherwise would not be able to attend. And there's very thoughtful program revisions to reflect the needs and interests of arts learners. The community performances were listed, but they were like pre-COVID times. So hopefully things are being adapted to be safe during this time of the pandemic, especially long-term care facilities. Are you actually going inside, or are the performances going to be outdoors in weather permitting to be socially distanced? And I know the building itself the Y is accessible, but are the performance facilities as well? It's great that they're beginning to produce marketing materials in Spanish. And it seemed like for project management, the staff and artists were well suited to carry out the project, and the budget is reasonable. The detail of the percentage of salaries and the occupancy fees of the Y for just the arts component was very much appreciated.
Thank you very much, Anna. And our second reader is Leslie.
Yeah, I really don't have anything to add. It's very complete arts opportunities. I guess I wanted to know how the students were recruited and based on what a sliding scale of need. And then just one item in the budget, probably no big deal, but $20,000 for costumes. I was like, wow, that's a good amount for costumes. I had costume envy.
Does anybody else have anything they would like to add to the conversation? All right, then let's finalize those scores, please. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. All right, our 12th application is Rediscover Downtown Peru. Karen. Karen, you're on mute.
So sorry.
Darn that mute button.
What I was saying was this is clearly a well-oiled machine. This particular project has a history of 26 years of success. And what they've done with that history is inform how to continue to move forward. And they continue to evolve with new offerings and new opportunities for the community and the artists. This particular project includes a tremendous amount of the community, and the cross-section seems to be broad considering its natural demographic. They mention handicapped in the community, so they've created ways to be handicapped accessible. They build a ramp for one space specifically, which I think is a commitment to that particular challenge. And they also offer a lot of free tickets to the community members and those who may not be able to attend to those events that are ticketed. So I think that's significant for its community. They seem to have a strong plan to collect their data to move forward. And it's clear that there is a tremendous sense of community pride and engagement with this particular project. The timeline and the budget seems to be in line. That's all I have to say.
Thank you, Karen. Kyle is our second reader.
The only thing I would like to add is in terms of their timeline, the fact that they meet 8 days after the festival. Sometimes you always want to say, hey, we'll talk about this in a couple of weeks. The fact that they pretty much, 8 days later or 7 days later are diving into the next year's, project, as well as kind of reviewing what just happened. I think that's a great process to have, because it allows you things to be fresh. And so I think that's something that I love to applaud.
Thank you. Does anybody else have anything new and or different they'd like to add? Leslie? You're unmute.
Sorry. Am I still muted? No. Okay. Just Cole Porter made a lot of Black artists very famous. He collaborated with a lot of African-American artists. They in turn gained a lot of notoriety through his music. So I think that component was maybe missing a little bit. Are you spotlighting some of the Black artists in the area?
Thank you. Does anyone else have anything they'd like to comment on? Okay, let's finalize those scores, please. 1, 2, 3, 4. Did Kyle freeze up on it? All right. We'll go ahead then. We'll go ahead. Science Central, and our first reader is Connie. Here he comes.
Okay. This application is about a project that is really condensed in time and in space, but yet they're they've set it up so not only does it happen in the STEAM camp, but it has the tabletop activities that Science Central visitors can also benefit from. It's a lot to explain within the confines of a grant application, but nevertheless, I would have appreciated more description of the artistic content and how artistic quality is the goal, and artistic experiences is the goal of getting this support. That would have helped me as I reviewed this application. I also would have benefited from another sentence or two describing how the project developers develop programs with reference to the communities you serve, which is the information that you gave me. And it's not that I disbelieve it, I just would like some more information about that. It would help me work through my analysis of the application. And I do want to say that if anyone wants to look for examples of marketing materials I think are very strong, Science Centrals are good ones to look at because they have engaging use of images of program participants. And they're bright and happy and they make you think, ooh, I could do that. And that's what they're for. So that's my comments.
Thank you, Connie. And Anna is our second reader.
Thank you. I would have liked to seen if they could have expanded the artistic component of this grant application. I'd like to see maybe artists manning the tabletop activities to further the engagement and involvement during the day, days of the camp. So whatever artist is there for that day, perhaps be there the whole day to help generate interest in bringing the general public to that tabletop. For the budget, I would suggest that Science Central, please look at my comments. I have quite a bit of them about the budget. Most significantly for this Zoom call, I would have liked to see a higher percentage of artist fees in the project. The artist fees were very low for this project. The facility expenses would have benefited from more information. Basically, what percentage of the facility use fee is for the arts project versus the science curriculum that's not related to the arts curriculum? They put the whole facility, I believe, they put the whole facility usage for the 3 days for the camp and for the demonstration theater, 3 days. Is every single activity happening in that demonstration theater an arts project? Or is there other science non-related arts components? It was unclear, and it would have been nice if percentages could have been given or an explanation of how the whole day was part of it. The other thing that was unclear, the scholarships. I really couldn't figure out how many participants numbers were participating in this program until I did some math based on the budget and the marketing materials. It does say for 5 scholarships, maybe more description of the camp admission income, which was quite high, and it included the 5 scholarships. But then again, it took it away in the expenses for the 5 scholarships. Now, understanding there's probably lunch expenses for those students, I don't see the camp fees as being an expense to Science Central. So that maybe perhaps could have been in the in-kind minus the lunch expenses that they would have for those scholarships. So again, I would like to encourage Science Central to please look at my comments in the budget section.
Thank you, Anna. Does anybody else have anything they'd like to add? Okay, then let's please mark those scores. 1, 2, 3, 4. God, cheers, Kyle. Waiting. Connie, are you? I believe that was a thumbs up. Okay, we are now down to the town of Monroeville, and Kyle is our first reader.
One of the big things I noticed was in terms of how they're, this is the first collaborative mural that they've done. I would like to have seen a little bit more in terms of how they're going to gain community input. They say that they're going to have a Facebook survey that's going to be on the town's Facebook and then post on the town's website. The issue with that, though, is what about those who don't have Facebook? And also, with those surveys, how are you ensuring that the individuals that are taking part in it are citizens of your community, either those living there, working there, or studying there for local schools or whatnot? So how are you making sure that the people that you're hearing from are those who are actually part of the community, but also beyond that, how are you making sure that you're engaging folks who don't have social media or might not be able, they didn't see the Facebook post? How are you making sure that you're going out and searching for those engagement and providing opportunities for people to engage in more unique ways? Does that mean going to local community locations, that churches, town centers, whatever it is making sure that you're finding those people instead of it's not just a Facebook post that maybe a small proportion engage with, and now you have the responses that might not be representative of everyone's views or thoughts. That was the big thing that I saw. And then I did like, though, on that same point, I did like the fact they are going to have a follow-up survey, even in those cases where it's a mural. It is good to see, what does the, community think? 6 months might be a little too long in terms of making sure it's still on people's minds, but at the same time, I understand maybe concerns if someone doesn't like it, giving them 6 months calms things over. But the biggest thing was making sure that there's a really good way to get input, and that's something where I think it could probably still be developed a little bit more. And that's it.
Thank you, Kyle. Karen is our second reader.
I just would like to add that I think that it's really important that they have that capstone piece for this project that's been going on for years, sort of like the whipped cream on the top of the sundae, no cherries. And I think that's super important for a community to have, for that community pride.
Now, does the panel have anything that they would like to add? Something new, something different? Anna.
Quickly, I would have liked to see the planned artist interaction with the community as part of the project.
Anybody else? Okay, going to mark our scores, please. One, two, three, 4, 5. Now we are down to what I want to call the drum roll. And for this application evaluation, we're going to excuse Karen to the holding room. And we will proceed then. This is a University of St. Francis School of Creative Arts, and Anna is our first reader.
Thank you, Nancy. It's excellent that the leadership team are trained artists who are also experts trained in working with individuals with disabilities. The inclusion of teaching artists with disabilities is also fantastic. The purpose of the project and outcomes are very clear, and there are many art activities for the participants. There are great partnerships between the artists and the participants as they co-create the original performances. The new support groups for the DSPs or direct service providers to help them better engage participants is really a good enhancement of the program. For community engagement, the model for involvement of people with disabilities, this is really a model project. The ratio of 1-to-1 is fantastic. The goal of partnering more with the University of St. Francis, as it is their host, is good, and to integrate into the community art scene and the university community is also good. The project is open to all without an audition, and that makes it totally inclusive. The evaluation methods are strong and inform the strategies and goals. And my suggestion is you can include the audience members in the participation numbers. In the project management, the staff is, again, very experienced. The timeline was very detailed. And the budget, there's a good amount to support artistic staff and the teaching artists and assistants. It's great to have a licensed behavioralist support team lead and a professional evaluator to process those evaluations. It would have been helpful to have detail on the participation fees, including the academic year and the summer number of participants and the fee per person. And also to notate somehow if there is a scholarship and if that's part of the program. And that's what I have.
Thank you, Anna. Leslie, as our second reader, you have something to add.
The only thing I wanted to add was if there would be a breakdown of socioeconomic level or maybe a race breakdown. And once again, recruiting of kids. What about the kids that, that aren't into don't work, the families that don't work with social service agencies? Once again, the kids that might fall through the crack that would totally benefit from this program.
Does anything else you'd like to add? Now I'm going cuckoo. Oh, I know why. Sorry about that. Then we'll go ahead and we will finalize those scores for the last time. 1, 2, 3, 4. Thank you very, very much. And I know we are going to look forward to welcoming Karen back with us. And this draws to conclusion the Indiana Arts Commission Region 3 Arts Project Support Grant Panel number 2. And when Heather